Testing. I hope y'all can hear me. Yes, I see here that you can hear me. Hi, guys. Welcome back to our Unlearning Anti-Blackness Book Club live discussion of Stamped from the Beginning. Here's our book, Stamped from the Beginning, by Dr. Ibram X. Kendi. And we are going to be discussing chapters 6 and 7 tonight. It's light outside behind me because I am pre-recording this video, but here's what is going to make it live. So as you're watching this right now, I'm in the comments watching it along with you. So after the first discussion, I tried to go live in the evening and have my kids being babysat, but it was not working. They were crying for me and it just was not working. And that's not how I want to talk about this topic. Not at all. So I figured there's not a lot of people doing this with me anyway right now. So I can pre-record the discussion part and just get in the comments and interact that way. So that's what makes this live, even though it is pre-recorded. So we've been kind of going between 6:30 on Tuesdays, 7 o'clock on Tuesdays to Wednesday getting uploaded whenever I got to it. So I'm hoping that all goes well with this recording and you guys can watch it tonight at 6:30. I'm crossing my fingers for that. So just a little housekeeping before we get into the discussion. I do want to say that I realize that free speech is a part of our American constitutional rights, but there's not free speech in this comment section. We're not tolerating any hate speech, any racist rhetoric, none of that. This is a safe space. I am creating this as a welcoming space for anyone who wants to dive into the contents of this book and talk about how it applies to everyday life. Let's see what else. Make sure you're following the Unlearning account on Instagram. I will put it in the comment section now. And make sure you're following it there because one, you can get announcements on future discussions, sharing photos of other people who are reading, and also just staying up to date with what we're doing, because right now we're talking about this book, and the book club is a thing. It's a thing because it's like that's where we're at in the world. It's a thing. So we are not going to stop this conversation when it dies down in the media. It doesn't really look like it's going to die down completely, but it has reduced a lot since this summer. So we're going to continue this conversation forever until we see some change. At least as long as I have the means to do it, I'll be doing it. That being said, I am now on Patreon. I'm putting the link here in the comment section. And if you enjoy this content, if you enjoy, basically it's kind of like we're an anti-racism school. If you're enjoying it, if you enjoy me as your instructor and you want to continue participating, you can support me on Patreon for as little as $3, maybe $1 or $3 monthly. So, you can, I'll take your dollar and you get access to a lot of different content that is not available in the public space. So yes, check that out in the link if you're interested in supporting this cause, even if you just want to make a one-time contribution so that I'm able to continue to do this and it grow and it be bigger and bigger. So yeah, that's that. Now, I want to go ahead and just get straight to it. I went over last week. Because I made it so thorough last week with the slides and all of this stuff. And I was like, okay, that was good, but I need to bring it down just a little bit. I don't want to take y'all too fast. And I want you to actually watch it all the way through and be engaged and take notes and tell your friends and all that and start side conversations about it. So I'm going to try to do something different. I don't have slides tonight. I have notes here, but I am going to be switching from my camera to my computer screen so that I can bring some stuff into context. So chapter 6 is the Great Awakening. It begins on page 66 in the book. And listen, these 2 chapters, I remember when I said last week that I read ahead, and I slowed down. I stopped because I wanted to make sure that I didn't have to go back through the material so much because it was taking a lot of time. So I'm just kind of reading as we discuss. And I hope that that's your approach as well. You don't have to like rush with the book. We're doing 2 chapters a week. Originally, I wanted to really kind of speed this up and be done by the end of October, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And I want to give this book like all the attention. I don't really want to rush it because it's so many things to unpack from it. And I also want to give people time to kind of jump in and be a part of it. But yeah, so we're doing 2 chapters a week. We're on chapter 6 and 7. And I remember when I came to these chapters in the book, I was really, I was just like highlighting. I got highlighter everywhere. Like all my pages look like this because it was just so much that jumped out at me and that stood out. And I guess one of the things that I heard Dr. Kendi say in one of his interviews was he talked about there always being anti-racist efforts. Like that's something that we should remember and kind of be encouraged by, that there has always been anti-racist efforts for as long as racism had existed. And I think that one thing that I'm trying to like remember and teach myself is really what how there's not a huge difference in all the different terms. Like you'll hear, I mean, there are differences, but you'll hear people say slavery, enslavement, oppression, systemic racism, generational racism, gentrification, like all these different things all point to the idea of racism. So I like that that Kendi makes it that simple. Racist, anti-racist. It's really that simple. And I have talked about, look, I gotta turn my book over. I've talked about the church a lot. And I have because it's in the book. And I have in the past, I'm not so much now, but I have been very, very vocal about where I attend church. And I want to kind of, I'm trying to make sure that I say this every time I go on or I do something, whatever. Any statement that I make regarding the church, I am not speaking on one particular church unless I say so. When I say the church, I mean Christianity. I mean the whole concept of it. Not necessarily this church over here on this street. I'm talking about the whole concept of Christianity. Tony's in the back. He just had to make a cameo. Come on, Wade, Tony. Since you popping in, making me nervous. I'm sorry. But I'm not talking about one particular church unless I say that. Now, if I'm speaking about my experiences in church, I'm gonna say that. And I will put whatever is necessary for my experience story, my testimony, or whatever you want to call it, whatever's necessary for that, I will say. But my point is, I'm not directing this to anyone. So I don't want people to get their panties in a bunch. And even if you did, I'm not saying anything that you can't look up yourself. So that's on you. But I just want to make that very clear. I'm not trying to jump on any particular church, but I am calling out what I have experienced and what I'm reading and learning about history. I am going to make the comparisons and I'm going to connect the dots. And that's just, I mean, if someone has a problem with that, it's their problem. It's not mine. It's just, you know. So, and it's not coming from, we'll get into all this. I'm kind of going ahead, but it's not coming from a place of rebelliousness or a place of trying to like be a certain thing. I take this very seriously, especially because I identify with Christianity. I take it seriously. It's not a game to me, so I'm going to be serious when I talk about it. And that's just what it is. It's coming from a place of this is something that has not been talked about, that we don't talk about it on purpose, and we're just not in a position where we can do that anymore. It's time to just get real. And I think that we have no issue doing that with abortion, with premarital sex, with homosexual relationships, and the gay community, shacking up, and we have no issues whatsoever having those conversations, saying those things, calling them out. But when it's time for the church to look at its own self, that's when you get crickets. And so it's just time out for that. We cannot be hypocrites about what we say we believe in. And I know as a Christian, what I have always believed in and what I've always known and understood about the religion and my faith, I am looking sideways, rightfully so. And it's all like, as I'm reading this book, it's like I'm living, like it's happening to me in real time, like in the future, because it's obviously 2020. I don't know how to put it, but it's like, I feel like I'm reading things that have always, like somewhere in me didn't sit right, but I went with it because of, like, it's because it's what you've been taught your whole life. And, like you just don't question things because you're taught not to. And then, it's ironic. It's so ironic, and it's very uncomfortable to be reading these things and being Black, because if you're a white person reading this, or if you are any other race than Black race, we know that's made up based on the book. If you're any other race than Black, then you don't get it. And if you're Black and you're not feeling like I feel, then you don't know the history. So, it's something that we need to really have an honest conversation about, and not deflect from this real conversation by bringing in other instances. No, we need to talk about Christianity within the context of American slavery and racism, and how it has continued, how we are still here. And even still, like, as a Christian, don't you feel like, dang, we dropped the ball? If you don't feel like that, then you're not looking at the history. And that's all I'm gonna say about that right now. So I want to go ahead and get into this. I'm gonna read a quote from the book. Black property legally or illegally seized, the resulting Black destitution blamed on Black inferiority, the past discrimination ignored when the blame was assigned. So when I read about Black people's land being seized, whether it was legally or illegal, and then the result of that, whether it's poverty, whatever happened, it was always blamed on the fact that you're Black and you need to go out here and get it. And, you need to is something that you didn't do, instead of looking at what got this person here, what got them here. I got 2 clips that I want to play, and they are dealing with property and racism, but it's 2 different sides of the coin. So let me look it up here. I have one pulled up, but the other I don't, and I'm gonna probably have to find it off of the Unlearning Instagram. Let's see. But I'm gonna start with the one on Instagram. Let's see. Can I share my screen? I should be able to. Sorry, y'all. I got my lights. I got my lights blocking the what's it called? The icon. So let me move it so I'll be able to see it. Maybe I won't be able to see it. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna make me bigger. Can I make me bigger? Yes, I'm gonna make me bigger. So you see here on the screen, the Unlearning Instagram account. So make sure you follow us if you haven't already, but I'm gonna show you a video that I shared. And so this quote is also from the book. It was in the beginning, and just bringing it back home to where we are now with the property tax and how Virginia's white lawmakers seized and sold all the property owned by any slave. No, matter of fact, let me go to the other one. So this is a segment. I actually saw this segment on Matter of Fact Sunday. I was in around the house, like cleaning up and stuff, and this came on. And I thought it was so ironic because I'm like, man, we are talking about this. And we're talking about this from the 1800s. And here we are in 2020. And this is really happening right now still. Like, you cannot make this stuff up. You can't argue with it. Facts are facts. So you read that in the book about the land being illegally seized and the legal way that they seized the land that was rooted in white response to Black advancement. It's a lot. Okay, let's watch it here.
I'm Soledad O'Brien. Welcome to Matter of Fact. You probably know about the battle in South Carolina between Republican Congressman Lindsey Graham and his Democratic challenger, Jamie Harrison. According to recent polls, Harrison, who was once considered a long shot, is in a dead heat with Graham. But there's another fight in South Carolina, a turf war you might not have heard of, a battle for land and legacy. In just a few days, hundreds of properties in one county will be auctioned off. Dozens of those properties belong to the Gullah Geechee people, descendants of slaves who still live on the Sea Islands, which stretch from northern Florida to North Carolina. Most of the land was bought by or given to freed slaves after the Civil War and has been passed down for generations. As correspondent Jessica Gomez tells us, some say during the middle of a pandemic, the tax sale should be delayed.
Along the shores of St. Helena Island and surrounding the marshes of South Carolina's Lowcountry are whispers of the past, the stories of those who've lived here for generations.
My grandmother, she loved trees.
Cynthia Welch trying to keep her grandmother's yard and legacy alive. Mary Brown was the granddaughter of freed slaves who bought their home in the late 1800s.
They worked hard to own this land, to get this, and to pass it on. And on her dying breath, she begged us, please don't sell it.
Welch, who was furloughed from her job at a hotel because of COVID-19, couldn't catch up on past due property taxes and was notified this summer her home would go to auction.
And I lived in fear every single day that this house could be taken away.
Welch, one of hundreds of delinquent landowners in Beaufort County, whose property is scheduled to go to next week's annual tax sale.
After the auction, that delinquent property owner has 1 year to pay back the highest bidder with interest. If they can't afford it, they lose their property for good.
Under mounting pressure to delay the auction until next spring, County Treasurer Maria Wall says unless state law is changed, the county would also be forced to collect this and next year's taxes as well.
So that delay of the tax sale comes, in some cases, at a very steep cost to the property owner.
We met Teresa White, head of the nonprofit, the Pan-African Family Empowerment Network, at the historic Penn Center. It was one of the first schools for freed West African slaves. The Gullah Geechee, as they're still known, went on to own much of the coastal land in Beaufort County.
Some of these families are living on land that their families have owned since the 1860s. They have never lived anywhere else.
An effort now to keep that land in the hands of the Gullah people. While retaining much of their culture here, they're rapidly losing their property. Much of it passed down from generation to generation, often with no legal deed, making it complicated and costly for heirs to develop and vulnerable to outside investors.
And the next thing you know, there's a big, fabulous resort, a subdivision with a gate around it.
Just to the south on Hilton Head Island, once mostly Gullah owned, there are now multi-million-dollar homes and resorts. A stark contrast to nearby historic Gullah neighborhoods. For many here, the property taxes have become unaffordable, and the pandemic making things worse.
Gullah is an opportunity for us to have, food for the soul.
Hilton Head restaurant owner Tim Singleton is back in business after shutting his doors for 3 months. Once donating to help save other Gullah land, he's now the one delinquent on 2 other properties.
Now I got a taste of what people go through, whether it's the stress and anxiety of losing your home or losing your property.
The conversation we're having about property taxes.
Republican State Senator Tom Davis represents much of Beaufort County. Late last month, he...
Okay, so I think that's enough. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot in that particular segment that I want to touch on. But before I do, I want to I guess I can break it up. I'll break it up. Let's go and talk about it. So this, as you can see, this issue is still affecting Black people today. And this, what comes to mind is gentrification. And if you don't know exactly what gentrification means, it is the process of renovating an area to make it look good or attract more affluent, middle class, higher class individuals. You're doing it not for the benefit of the people who live there, but to attract a certain group of people there. And so what happens in the case of gentrification, I live here in Jackson, Mississippi, and it's all around me. Areas where, let's say if I was my age, back when I was in 9th grade, I could afford to live places what I make now that I can't today. And that's kind of how land and gentrification and taxes and all of those things intermingle, and Black people who are disproportionately affected by low income and a lack of education or quality education, things like that. That's how people stay at the bottom. And it's kind of hard to climb your way back out. Because let's say your grandmother has a house that's in walking distance to Thundering, but she's risking having her land taken because of the developments that's going on there and how that is causing the property taxes to go up when she's on a fixed income, or she only meets an income level of this, and her change is not happening, but this land is coming up, popping around because developers are buying it, making it look better, attracting more people, thus making their case to draw more people in. It's just a vicious cycle. And so then you have tax sales that enable it. It continues it, because now it's legal for me to take your property even though it's yours. And it also makes me think about Midtown. I have done a lot of work in Midtown, and they're doing a lot of things for the community, and they are buying up the land and getting ready to do certain developments, and they're trying to make a conscious effort to include the community and help the community be a part of it, which is not the same as what's going on in other places. And so it's a complex issue. It's complex, and again, it's not always positive. And I just don't like. I remember wanting to do a lot of funding, and it's so cool, it's so this, and then I've heard people who would disagree, and I just didn't get it. And those people, they was woke, they was on to some things that I wasn't aware of. And now that I'm looking at it, it's hard to enjoy myself in funding, because I'm looking at, like, most of the people around me are white people, and historically this is a Black area that just kind of got gutted out and remodeled to make it more hippie and cool. And it's uncomfortable. I don't know, like, I just can't vibe with funding like I used to be able to, and only because it's like it's all around me, and I'm just not in a place where I can deal with it right now. So I don't frequent that area anymore, because all I want to do is call stuff out. But another thing that I want to share from that video, that you can look at, and I'll put the link in the comment section. There's an article on Modern Farmer about how African American farmers lost 90% of their land. So I'll make sure to put that resource in the comment box now, so that you can check it out and read it for yourself. And so the other thing about Blacks and land and property that I want to show you is what I said about the Instagram. So let's share my screen. Make myself bigger. And I'm going to play the video. It's a clip from, this video is a clip from, from a documentary by Frontline PBS, who I love everything that they do. I love all their documentaries. And this is talking about poverty and politics. And I saw this clip on Twitter, and just like I was with the Soledad O'Brien piece, when I saw this, I was like, oh my goodness, this is what we're talking about. So I want you guys to see it. And it's important that I realized from the very first broadcast that all this information is new for everyone, including myself. But because I'm Black, because I've lived it, because I've, kind of been aware for the most part of different tactics and strategies that support the claims, our claims, our experiences. I have always been aware of it, but now, because I have, I've been in closer proximity to more white people from different walks of life, and I'm realizing that a lot of them, it's a willful ignorance, you know, if you're a white adult, for you to choose not to engage or not look at these things or examine what's going on around you. That's, you know, just being willfully ignorant, especially if you watch the news and you see what's going on. So there's this willful ignorance on top of just an outright refusal to go there that keeps people from seeing this stuff in real life, and for now being able to call it what it is. So I knew that it was important that when I came back on and in the future, to show it. And so that's why last week I included photos, but this week I want to start pulling clips and news stories so that these examples that we're reading in the book, you can have a point of reference. So sorry, this video is that, so I'll play it now.
The local opponent of the development.
What is your concern when it comes to Section 8 and low income?
The lifestyle, I feel like, that goes with Section 8 is usually working single moms or people who are struggling to keep their heads above water. And it's not, I feel so bad saying that, but it's not, it's just not people who are, I guess, of the same class as us, which sounds bad, but I don't mean that in a bad way.
Some people would say, you know, look, they maybe have not had the opportunities that their kids are not going to have the opportunities that your kids are going to have in this neighborhood.
Right.
Can they share in that?
The problem with that is I hear a lot of the unfair of, oh, we haven't been given this or not that, or we haven't been afforded things that you might have been afforded. I don't look at multimillionaires and think, why don't I have a yacht? Why don't I have a private jet? It's a mindset, I feel like.
Nicole Humphrey is a local opponent of the development.
So Nicole Humphrey is willfully ignorant. So it goes back to this quote: consumers of these racist ideas have been led to believe that there's something wrong with Black people and not the policies that have oppressed them and confined them. And we just saw a real life example of that. That short of taking it, how do I get adequate education? How is that my fault that I'm not getting that? How is it my fault that I'm going to the hospital for an ailment and the doctor refuses to prescribe me pain medication because he doesn't believe that I'm in pain? How is that my fault? When I get sick and I can't work and now I can't pay my bills, how is that my fault? And so you hear a lot of victim mentality and all these things that swirl about when it comes to really, now we here. Now we done the cat out the bag, we're gonna talk about it. And the immediate thing that you hear is, well, you're being a victim. And I am a victim. I have been a victim since day one. Do you think that Black people want to be victims? Do you think that we want to take that on? And I'm kind of like I get it. No, not from white people. But when Black people, other Black people say, you know, we're not victims and we got to stop acting like this. And it's like, no, we are. And until we say it and let people see it, we explain it, we document it, we demonstrate it. It is what it is. The victim mentality does not apply because you literally are. And when you're trying to climb out of that and you get knocked down by a law that's grounded in racism, what are you? I mean, what do you have to say for that? So that video, like, it bothered me so much because she was so proud and happy to say how it's not bad, and just like, you stupid, you ignorant. It's pure ignorance, and it's a willful. You're choosing to be, because I ain't gonna go there because I'm gonna start cussing and try not to, don't keep this classy. Don't keep it classy. I'm just gonna move on. Y'all do what y'all want to do with that, but it really pisses me off. It really pisses me off. Really pisses me off. So moving on. now we get into this church business again. So, y'all see it here in the book where it talks about the book that Cotton Mather, we talked about him last week. He published a book, he released a work called The Negro Christianized. And this was in June 1706. Slavery still obviously going on. And Cotton Mather said that the providence of God sent Africans into slavery and over to Christian America to have the capacity to learn from their masters the glorious gospel. The law of Christianity allows slavery. It's in the books. Page 68 and 69. It's in the book. I didn't make it up. I just read what the man wrote, who you can look up on the Christianity Today website. Now, I told y'all, I have said this a lot actually. I had to have a sit down with my pastors because I had questions. And what I hear from them and from other people, and what is obvious, is that the word was manipulated. That it's not the word that's wrong. People manipulated the word to fit their interest. And that is 100% probably the case. But the issue is that these same things they're going on now. St. Paul is mentioned a lot in this book for not calling out slavery, for writing about it more than once in the Bible. And I looked it up about Paul and how slave owners use the word. And the book kind of skips around from the point I want to make. But they use the word to get slaves to submit. So basically, they kidnapped Black people, kidnapped Africans, forced them into slavery, came home, realized that after seeing rebellions and revolts and attempts by slaves to escape, they realized that, okay, maybe they can be Christians because Christianity will make them more submissive. They'll learn that they're supposed to be a good servant, that they're supposed to do this. This is an encouragement. We want them to be humble. We want them to do what we're saying to do. So if we convert them to our religion, we can use the gospel to get them to do what we want. And so as a Christian, you can say, okay, they manipulated the word. Don't we do that? We do that now. You know, we twist scripture and make it fit our personal interests. But now, present day in 2020, you have people who are now asking these questions, people like me, who are saying, wait, something's wrong here. And it's not necessarily like I can deal with someone manipulating the word. But then what does that mean? that means that the religion that these Africans practice in their respective country has been erased. And as a Black person, whenever, at least in my experience and with people that I'm close to, whenever we have tried to kind of understand culturally what Africans practice, if it's not Christianity, it tends to be looked down upon. And Darius, he is one of my Facebook friends. He posted something about this. We put those things in a box, and now I'm wondering if, because I've been closed-minded about these conversations too. Like when me and my husband first met, he was really into spirituality, but not the way that I was. I was always in it from Bible, church, Christian, Jesus, God. He kind of he helped me to get familiar with energy and meditation and vibrations and things like that. And we'd often, when we were early on, when we were dating, we often get into these deep discussions about religion and about some of the things in the Bible. And, as a Christian, you're taught up, especially a Southern Baptist Christian, you're taught up, a Black one, let me add that, you're brought up to not question the Bible. Like, this is what it is. I can't tell you why, but it is what it is, and you need to follow it. And if you don't follow it, you're not right, and you're not gonna go to heaven. And so I didn't come from a background of questioning things. And so when he would, I just kind of write him off, or I would be very closed-minded about it. But I found myself, since I've been reading the book, really thinking about that. Like that conditioning to not question and to just have blind faith. That has been, I've been dealing with that. I've been really dealing with that, because if you, and I'll put it like this. My church is attempting to, they're attempting to do a racial reconciliation type group, right? And I'm part of the group as of now, and I've already kind of seen some things that are kind of like suspect or heard. And we're studying from this book, and they say, the world will tell you to be anti-racist. You have to be anti-racist or racist. And it's like, there's no in between. It's no in between. And when that type of conversation usually happens when someone like me is saying, look, this, and this, but this, and this, and it's still going on, this, and this, and they should have been this, that person's like, you're like, look, you acting like the world, and God calls us to be unified. And it just makes me think back about, like, that must have been the way that was walked out back in those days. Like, it had to be the same thing. And we're not talking about stuff that's made up. We're not talking about anything that's wrong. And the fact that me challenging Christianity because it was used to keep enslaved Black people submissive, how is that wrong? And if it's wrong, then what is up with you? If you shy away from someone who's doing it, or even like me, when I was really closed-minded, I just didn't want to accept the possibility that what I had been grounded in my whole life was not as clean and pretty and nice and feel good as I was hoping that it would. I honestly did not want to go there to find out that I may be wrong, or I may be misled, or I may have been misguided. And so all that does, whether it's me doing it, a pastor doing it, your mama doing it, all it does is keep us in this mess. And maybe I won't get the answers that I'm looking for. Maybe I won't. But then that even goes back to, and I'll bring it out. Let me give you the page. No, it's not a page. It's this article. I'm gonna share my screen really quick. I hope I'm not rambling. I feel like I'm rambling because there's so much I want to say. But it goes back to, look at this article, that abuse, when you look at the biblical principles in the context of black and white, which black folks didn't create it. You know, that's another thing. White people don't want us to talk about something that they created, that they built, and that they benefit off of, whether your mom and daddy didn't own slaves or not. You as a white person, as a person that is non-black, you benefit from white privilege. That it is a privilege. And so if you look at biblically, you can make the word, it can work out even if you're in the wrong. So if black people, let's talk about in the context of justifying slavery. If black people are being punished with slavery, if black people are enslaved, it must be a punishment for something. Remember curse theory, climate theory, all of that. Okay. Well, if you didn't do it, if you didn't do it in this life, you did it in the past, and now it's a curse on you, and it's a curse on your whole entire race. And then it's like, well, if that's the case, God, thank you for letting us live and make it. And I just thank you for, I may be oppressed, but I'm not a slave. Thank you, God. Okay, well, why do I feel, okay, so now it's like, okay, I ain't trying to hear that. Now I'm like, well, no, why are we oppressed? This shouldn't be. This is wrong. Why hasn't there been changed? Why isn't the riots happening right now? Why aren't people tearing up America? Why are we not going against the system? And it's like, because God is in control. Give it to God. You can't take this on yourself. God is gonna fix it. And guess what? If he does fix it now, he's such a faithful and good God that you will get your reward in heaven. So you can manipulate this to, no matter what you say, to try to break this chain of oppression. There is some biblical spin you can put on it to make you shut up. And I told Tova, who I will bring up a lot because Tova is a person in my life who I feel like the only reason why I probably have not decided to not participate in Christianity anymore, and this is the honest truth, is because of Tova. Because I was dealing with race in my church. I was dealing with it because I was feeling all the stuff that I'm feeling now, but I wasn't empowered to say anything. I was dealing with that. And I ended up meeting Tova, and she's a white woman. The very thing that I was struggling with, God used it to bring me closer to him. And I am a better person than I was prior to that. Tova didn't do anything for me, but her being in my life and asking me or inviting me to be part of her small group, which I was able to see some foundational stuff about Jesus and God, that in turn empowered me to be doing what I'm doing now. And so whenever I start feeling guilt, like Darius mentioned this on Facebook, whenever I start feeling that guilt, like, Jessica, why are you questioning this? Why are you questioning God? Don't you believe him? Why are you talking about this on Facebook? Why are you putting yourself out there like that? Why, that's a real guilt. But I'm holding on to the change that's happened within me, that changed after I got to know God for myself. And so then it's like, the question is, are most people out here just faking it? And you're not really digging deep and having a relationship with the Lord that will require you to sit and look at this and figure out how to turn it around. And I told Tony last night, I'm thinking about this, like, people will say, well, just, you just got to play the game. You can't say everything you want to say online. You can't talk about politics and like this. You can't say that stuff. You may not get a job. You know, you got to play the game. And I'm just like, why would I play the game if it's rigged? Why am I playing a game that's rigged? What would you do? If you're playing a game with someone that you know is cheating, that has a history of cheating, you're watching them cheat, would you continue to sit and play that game? Or would you get up from the table and do your own thing? And that's where I am now. I don't want to play the game. The game is rigged. I don't want to play it. So if that means that my lifestyle has to change in order for me to do the work that I believe I'm called to do now, that we're all called to do, to fix this original sin, to right it, to do what we can do here on earth, because God is waiting on us. It's a lot of things that we can do, but we have to get the history and know the facts first. I begin so worked up, y'all. But I mean, like, you know, you have to, and this is it's an uncomfortable position to be in. As I said to Darius in my response to him on Facebook, it is very uncomfortable to question what you believe in. It's uncomfortable when you've been taught not to. But then it's like, it's making me believe that God is not as complex as we make him be. It's very, very simple if we would look at the word and take it and apply it to life. God is in the trees. He's in the stars. He's in the animals. He's in the ground. He's everywhere. He created it. So we have to stop putting God in this box when we don't want to deal with something. And then we have the nerve to sit up in church and say, well, the Lord can move mountains. Is not this a mountain? Do we believe he can move it or not? Putting it in his hands, he's going to give us a response. And it's our job to go about doing the work that he wants us to do so that it can be achieved through us as his vessels. And so I just cannot, I have peace despite all this stuff that I'm reading, despite all of the things that I'm learning, the dots that I'm connecting currently every single day. Despite all of that, I have peace. Like, I have a tremendous amount of peace. I feel very fulfilled. I feel like I'm in my purpose. I feel all of these things that I've always wanted to feel. And so I know that though what I'm doing may not be popular, it may not be like, you know, it may not catch on, I'm still fulfilled because I know that one person's gonna watch. I know Toba is being changed. She's thinking of things, and maybe even if she quits and decides it's too heavy, or that she, you know, like it's too much, I still have made an impact. And so I'm at a point now where I can't go back, and I'm probably going to continue speaking out even more. In fact, I have a blog post called "It's Time to Talk About the Elephant in the Church." And I would imagine a lot of eyes are going to be on it. A lot of people are probably going to feel a way about the fact that I'm bringing it up, about the fact that I'm talking about my own experiences at church, when I obviously have a relationship with my pastors more than just seeing them, you know, seeing them on stage or on TV, you know, on the stream. I actually have a relationship where I can call them, you know, and they respect me. And so, like, whenever I get afraid to, like, do what I know I need to do, I just go back to the fact that I know that they respect me. They know that I am who I am. And I think they like that about me. They've at least said that. And so I would hope that, you know, they wouldn't be offended by my experience, because it's true. And that would be an example for people who may attend church with me who disagree with what I'm doing. That they can look at the pastors as an example and they be like, well, they ain't mad about it. You know, and maybe that's me people pleasing or want to people please, or, you know, just still being uncomfortable about doing this. Maybe that's how it's manifesting, but that's just really where I'm at. But I feel like I've been on like way too long. I just want to touch on a couple things. I'm going to talk I'll give you the pinpoint in the book and just my little take on it. You'll see on page 69, this is kind of where the title of the book comes in, that Black people were stamped from the beginning. We were not cursed, but we were weak at the start, because there are two lessons about Black people. You could buy them like cattle, and they were dangerous criminals like the witches from the witch trials. So basically, and then since Africans were brought to America and enslaved, they've resisted their slavery. So that means because slavery is legal, you're a criminal. And in all of the slave revolts that were reported early colonial times in America, resisting slaves were almost always cast as violent criminals, not people reacted to enslavers' brutality or pressing for the most basic human desire, which is freedom. And that goes back to the protest now, how people they're not characterizing, and I'm saying they, like, I'm not talking about everyone. Obviously, some media outlets are doing it and some people are doing it. But a lot of folks are looking, they're looking at protesters as criminals, people who are destroying things as criminals. Yeah, it might be illegal to do that, but it's, look at what you're doing to me. What do you want me to do? If I don't resist, I'm weak and I'm lazy and I just accept anything and it's my fault that I'm in poverty. But when I do resist to try to get these things, you cut me down and you categorize me as a criminal. So what am I supposed to do? Nothing is ever good enough. If you look at page 70, Kendi says that no matter what African people did, we were characterized as barbaric, brutalized. If we didn't want freedom, then if we weren't trying to fight for our freedom, then they're taking our obedience as us being accepting of our condition. But then if we're non-violently resisting, you beat me. We saw that in Jim Crow times. John Lewis got beat. You beat me if I resisted non-violently, but then if I killed you, now I'm a murderer. So nothing that I do has been good enough. This is what Malcolm X taught a lot about, like, by any means necessary. They don't care. Malcolm X, Stokely, all of those radical civil rights leaders, their position was you can't expect somebody with no conscience to be considerate of you. They don't have a conscience. What? It's crazy. Page 71. This was interesting how basically Africans invented the precursor to modern vaccination. Look at that. We'll talk about that more in an extended thing. We'll also talk about how the conspiracy theory that arrived from that. I just want to wrap up. I feel like I know I've been on over an hour. I don't have a timer, but I just feel it in my spirit, and I'm looking at my clock, and it's 30 minutes past since I've been looking at it, so I know I've been on an hour. But this is chapter 7. We'll talk about some of these things, but it just goes on to talk more about Christianity. And Christianity encourages and orders African people to become more humble and better servants. They should not learn to read and write, though. So that is interesting. Now, what I just read, that came from the present state of Virginia, which was written by a minister in Virginia. He was very influential, and he was basically saying Christianity is going to encourage them to be humble and do their job as our servant. But you can't let them read and write, though. And that is, I'm going to stop there, because that goes into public education. It goes into why Blacks have always been unequally educated, why certain things have been left out of history, all of that. Because if you learn to read and write, and you get your mind right, and you find this stuff out, y'all gonna destroy us. And that is why we never knew it. That's why so many of us are learning these things and these details for the first time, because we were never supposed to know it, because it would interrupt everything in the world. Thank y'all for watching, for participating. I really appreciate it. This is a lot, y'all. It's so much to talk about, so much to unpack. I could go on and on and on. I could go live every day talking about this stuff, and maybe I should. I don't know. But I'm just trying to make it work for my lifestyle, trying to make it work for just mental health reasons and all of that. But thank y'all again for participating, for watching, for commenting. It's only going to get better and more interesting from here. Check out my Patreon if you want to support this book club, if you want to support my efforts to empower people with education and knowledge about the history of Black people in America. You can do so for as little as $1 a month. I'll put the link in the description box. What else? Any other announcements? Please subscribe to me on YouTube. I'll have a replay of this broadcast on YouTube. That's also where I'll be doing the little sidebar conversations from the books, such as the one about vaccination. Let's see, what else? Anything else? Oh, I'm going to be publishing my blog post about us needing to talk about the elephant in the church. And I'm ready for it. God got me. I'm not saying nothing wrong. God got me. God got me. And he got you too. If you're feeling like I feel, he got us. Like, it's nothing wrong with questioning something that is historically accurate. It's nothing wrong with having a conversation about it, with talking about it. Do not let anyone tell you that something's wrong with that, because it's not. It's just not. It's not. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, and you might get side-eyed, and some church folks might tell you that you're barking up the wrong tree. But again, it's a conversation. It's just a conversation. And I said what I had to say about going to heaven and getting your reward and all that. I said all that. That only benefits white. Never mind. All right, y'all. That's it. I'll see y'all next week for discussion number 4. See ya.